Hi guys, welcome to today's video. In this video we'll be making pants. If you haven't seen how I draft my pants pattern, please check the description box. I'll link that video below. So these are my pants pattern. I have my front pants pattern, which I've made a few modifications to, like adding a fly at the center front. So my fly from the waistline measures about 7.5 inches downwards and it extends at about 1 inch and 3/4. I also went ahead and made myself some pocket bag. So my pocket bag measures from the side waistline, measures at about 12 inches and the pocket opening is about 6.5 inches, and my pocket bag is shaped in such a way that it enters into the center front seam. Now at the side seam I went inwards by 1 inch and 3/4, and that will be for the pocket facing, and downwards it goes down by 6.5 inches from the waist. So I went ahead and I traced out my pocket bag, added my seam allowance, and I also traced out my pocket facing, but the pocket facing does not go into the center front seam. I also made myself a shield for my fly, which is about 8.5 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. Now this is the fabric I'm using. I'm using a linen blend fabric, and I'm going to place my pattern on my fabric, making sure my grain line is parallel to my selvage. Now when you're working with linen fabric, I really suggest that you work with the grain line, place your pattern in such a way that your grain line is parallel to the selvage of your pattern. Because if you don't do that, you're going to find out that after you've cut out your pattern, it's going to stretch in weird directions you won't like. So I folded my fabric in two and I placed my patterns down and I pinned them. So I'm cutting out 2 of the front pants piece and 2 of the back. Now I've also placed my shield also, and my shield I'm going to cut 1 of my shield. Then I went ahead and marked out my notches as well. Then I was initially going to cut out my pattern out of my pocket patterns out of my main fabric, but I later changed my mind because I was trying to save the fabric so it will be enough to make something else. So I later cut out my pocket pieces out of a lining piece, and then I made a facing for the pockets. So these are my pattern pieces all cut out. So I have my pocket facing, and this is the facing piece I said I cut out. So I just cut the facing piece in such a way that when I sew the pants together, the white lining is not going to show when the pants is worn. So go ahead, I cut 2 of the pocket bag facing and 2 of the pocket facing, if you understand what I mean. So I'm going to interface the facing piece for the pocket facing. I also cut out my pants 2, and I cut out my shield, which is just 1 piece, and then I have my back pants, which is 2, and then I also have my pocket lining, which I cut 1 because it will be folded in the my waistband, which I cut 1 because it will be folded in 2. I also cut myself some interfacing for my waistband, and I'm just going to iron them on. Now what I didn't mention is that my waistband is an added waistband to the pants. So if you want, because I want it to be super high waisted, but if you don't want that, you can make your waistband out of your pattern piece because it's already high-waisted. So here I'm just going ahead to pin my darts. I'm going to pin my dart for my front pants and my back pants, and I'm going to sew that down. Once I'm done with my darts, I pressed all my darts towards the center front of my pants. And I'm going to go ahead and work on my pocket pieces. So I'm taking my pocket bag and my pocket bag facing. Now this facing piece was not interfaced. So I'm going to place my pocket bag on my pocket facing on my pocket bag piece, right sides of the pocket bag lining with left side of the facing piece. So the right side of the facing piece is facing upwards, and I'm going to pin along the inner seam, and I'm going to sew that down, and repeat the same thing for all my pocket bags. This is just a way to finish the edges of the pockets on the right side. And I'm stitching close to the edge of that fold. Once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and attach my pocket facing to my pants. So I'm opening my pants right sides facing up. Then I'm going to take my pocket facing and place it on my front pants, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to pin along that opening. Do the same thing on both sides, and I'm going to take that to my machine and sew on my 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And once I'm done sewing, I'm going to turn it over, making sure my seam allowances are facing towards the facing, and I'm going to understitch it. I also went ahead and I did a 1/4 of an inch top stitch, and I also finished the raw edge of my pocket facing. Then I'm going to take the pocket bag and close up my pocket bag. So I'm going to pin along the edge of my pocket bag, making sure my notches are matching, my side seams are matching, and I'm going to take that to my machine and I'm going to sew along the pocket bag, closing the pockets, and then I'm also going to finish the raw edge of the pocket bag. Once I'm done with both sides of my front pants, this is what it should look like. I went ahead and I did a basting stitch on the side of the pants and along the waistline as well. Now I also finished the raw edges of my fly on both pants and my center front seam. So I'm going to pin my pocket bag out of the way and decide which side of your pants you want your fly to be. I think the female pants, the fly always sits at the right side of the pants, but my pants today somehow ended up being on the left side. So on the side that does not have the fly, you're going to go ahead and cut off your fly on that side. And then I went ahead to finish the raw edges of my shield. So now I'm going to place my front pants right sides together, and I'm going to pin along the center front seam. And I'm going to stitch from under the fly to like 1 inch away from the inseam. So I'm going to sew that down, remembering to do a back stitch. And when I get to the fly, I'm going to stop and do a back stitch there as well. Now on the side of my pants that does not have the fly, I'm going to fold the seam allowance inwards by 3/8 of an inch. So if my seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch, I'm folding inwards towards the wrong side of the fabric 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to press that down. Then I'm going to move my pants out of the way to work with the side that has the fly. Now I went ahead and I pressed along the center seam of my fly just to create a crease there so I can work better. If you want to use a chalk to mark your center front line, please go ahead and do so. So here you can see my folded crease, and I'm going to take my zipper tape and place it facing downwards on my fly, and I'm going to place one edge of my zipper tape 1/4 of an inch away from my fly. Then I'm going to take that to my machine and sew on this side I'm pinning on. So we're going to sew on along the tape on the side that is closest to the fly seam. So on this side. So once that's done, I'm going to take out my pins and I'm going to fold my center front crease, and I'm going to press it down. So when you press it down, you'll see that your zip is already hidden, your zipper teeth is already hidden in the fly. Then I'm going to open my zip and I'm going to place the folded edge of the other side of my pants along the zipper teeth, and then I'm going to sew that down as well. Please forgive the noise you're hearing. Apparently my neighbors think it's a good time to play their music very loud. So I'm placing the folded edge of my pants on the zipper teeth of the other side of the pants. Now you can go ahead and sew that down, but I'm going to take my shield and I'm going to align the raw edges of my seam with the raw edges of my zipper tape. And I'm also going to pin that down, so when I take it to my machine, I'll be making just one straight stitch along that zipper teeth. So taking that to my machine, I'm going to sew close to the edge, close to the folded edge. So once that's done, when you close your zip, you see that you've actually finished your fly front pants. Now all that's left to do is to mark your fly. So I have my fly piece which I cut out of my pattern. It's about a 1/2 an inch shorter than the pattern itself. So I'm going to trace that line down on my pants and I'm going to take that to my machine and do a top stitch, making sure that I don't catch my shield in the way. So I'm going to pin my shield away from my pants and I'm going to make sure that my fly is seated on the right side, and I'm going to pin along that fly, my front pants and the fly together, and I'm going to take take that to my machine and sew along the line I created for my fly. So once that's done, you can go ahead and unpin your shield, and you're going to tack your shield down to the seam allowance or to the fly of the pants. Now I'm just going to go ahead and join my back pants to my front pants along the side seam and also along the inseam. Then I made myself some belt loops that is about the end result is about 3/8 of an inch, and I cut them 4 inches long. I just like to cut it long so that I have extra. And then I'm placing them at both darts in the front, and then I'm placing 2 on either sides of the side seam. Not exactly on the side seam, but a little away from the side seam. Then I placed 2 at the back, 1.5 inches away from the center back seam on both sides. Take that to my machine, and I'm going to tack along the waistline just to hold the belt loops in place. Once that's done, I can go ahead now and add my waistband to my pants. So I'm placing my waistband at 5/8 of an inch away from the shield. So the side of the waistband that is not interfaced is going to be on the main pants, and the interface side will be on the inside. So I placed that 5/8 of an inch away from my shield because I need that seam allowance to close it. Then I went ahead and I also tacked my belt loops 1/4 of an inch away from the waistline. I did that on all belt loops. So I made a few back stitches there, and then I folded the other side of my waistband by 5/8 of an inch, which is my seam allowance. And then I'm going to fold my waistband right sides together over the front of it, and I'm going to pin along the shield and then take that to my machine and sew my 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now doing this is going to close the center front of your waistband. Once that's done, I went ahead and trimmed off the excess and trimmed off the corners. So when I turn it over to the right side, it's completely finished. And I did the same thing also for the side that has the fly. So I pinned the waistband right sides together, and I'm going to sew along the shape of the waistband. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and trim my seam allowances down. And then I'm going to turn it over to the right side and push out my corners. Once that's done, I'm going to fold the folded edge of my waistband, making sure it covers the seam that I created from the front of the pants. So you're going to fold it over, making sure it covers your seam line. And I'm going to take that to my machine and stitch in the ditch, making sure to catch the folded edge of my waistband in the back. Stitching in the ditch can be difficult if you're learning how to sew. So if that doesn't work properly for you, you can just top stitch from the right side of your pants. Once that's done, this is what mine looks like. And now I'm going to fold my belt loops over. And then I'm going to pin that down and do a couple of back stitches along the top of my waistline. I'm going to repeat the same thing for all belt loops, and I'm going to cut out the excess. Once that's done, all that is left to do is hem your pants. So I folded, my hem has about 1.5 inch, so I folded in half an inch and then I folded 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead and sew that down, and this is what our pants is looking like. Now I can go ahead and add some closure to the front of my pants. So I'll be using a hook and bar for my closure. So I'll be attaching 2 hook and bars to my pants today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up, share it with your sewing community. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe or consider subscribing, and turn on your post notification bell so you get notified every time I post a video. Thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.